What's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of the Whole Health with Rob Carney podcast. So, the Whole Health with Rob Carney podcast is a platform to connect with and share the stories of health professionals, personal development leaders, and health entrepreneurs who are making an impact in the world. So, today I'm joined by Mr. Alpha Hippie himself, Mr. Angelo. So Angelo has a great story, which I'm going to let him tell for himself because it is truly fascinating. I've had the pleasure of hearing it from him firsthand, reading it on his bio, but I want him to share this with you today. But before we dive into that, I just want to thank everybody who is tuning into this podcast today. And if you enjoy this episode, I'd love for you to share this with a friend, share this with someone that you think could really benefit from this. And I really appreciate any support you can give to the channel, sharing this, leaving a review, checking out the sponsors of our organic superfoods that we work with, and just doing anything we can to spread more love and light with the world. So, Angelo, welcome to the show, my brother.
Oh, grateful to be here. Thank you for such a beautiful introduction, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Well, we've been fortunate enough to be introduced by our mutual friend, Mr. Ryan Sprague at Highly Optimized. So, shout out to brother Ryan, who I just
Ooh-wee.
posted our second podcast together yesterday. So, Angelo, as I mentioned in the intro, you have an incredible story. And I was thinking, I was like, I might just read his story, but I was like, I want to hear it from you. In a few minutes, what is your story? How can people learn where you came from and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I grew up, right now I reside in San Clemente, Southern Orange County, California. We've been here, my wife and my year and a half old son, we've been here about 8 or 9 months since the summer of 2020. And I grew up in a small suburb outside of Chicago called Melrose Park. And I grew up with a father that was in prison for throughout the 90s, from 5 till 16 years of age for me. And what I really look back on that now is a period where I had the opportunity to grow up quicker than most boys did. And although some of my innocence may have been removed from my life a bit early, now that I look at it as a 37-year-old man, it is quite my strength that I have already been on such a working path and doing a lot of things at a young age. I got my first job when I was 10 years old, and I was forced in a world of duty and responsibility quite young. And my, as I just said a second ago, it is something now looking back that I am so grateful for. For many years, I resented it. I wanted to be the kid that could go play and wasn't forced into this reality. And now that I look back, it's absolutely the reason that I even feel qualified to do what I do and show up as I am right now in this point in my life. And that was a very trying time for me. I grew up in a house full of women. And I also was quite fortunate that the people that I wound up working for in my teenage years mentored me and wound up taking quite a great liking to me as a boy and understood the situation and were quite empathetic to the situation that I was in. And so I wound up finding wonderful mentors along the way in men and guides. And it was absolutely set up for me in such a beautiful way where the man that I started working for at the age of 12, of course, when he was growing up, his father was in prison. And so there was an immediate uh, extra connection between us. And then he has a son who was about 12 years older than me. And for me, when I'm looking at any sort of mentors now, that to me, the 8 to 10 year mark, or even a little bit older, seems to be the sweet spot for me. I love being around men a decade older. There's something about that decade number that is if you study flow or anyone is privy to flow, it's right as challenge and skill is just overreach, right? It's just there. Anything more than that, you more than likely are demotivated because it's too far out of your scope, or if it's below you, you're not stimulated as much. And for me, when I've been so fortunate that I've had that sort of number right in front of me, in this decade is really where I look at growth and how I and take on embodying identities as I continue to evolve as a man. And so I had these amazing figures, teach me certain things. Don't get it twisted. My father is a bad motherfucker, dude. My dad has taught me how to really be bold. And please forgive my cursing. Yet this is how
Use the
I see.
words. Use the words. That's why they're there.
Right, great. And this is how I see my father. And my father, what he really taught me at a young age was tenacity. And although the methods were not, and still are not, even worse now, back in the 80s, they weren't really good. The methods now would be, considered abuse. But at the same time, hey, I got the lessons and I learned how to forgive and become compassionate towards the methods. And isn't that what self growth is all really about? And so, I've been really fortunate there. And then the father that I wound up working for, that man, he taught me how to really take pride in everything that I do. And no matter what it is, if I'm with my son, with my wife, scrubbing the toilet, doesn't matter. I take a lot of pride and look at anything that I take on and do as a symbol of me. And then I'm going to make a masterpiece out of it, or I'm not even going to attempt it. I don't want to do the gods a disservice. And then he has a son that, if anyone has ever seen the movie Bronx Tale, was my sonny. He was the guy that showed me how to be cool, how to have swagger. And he would teach me how to, go on dates and things of that nature. So I wound up having, I have a biological father. And then as he went and experienced what his life brought him, these other father figures came into my life. And when I was 20 years old, I was involved in a motorcycle accident. I was hit by a landscaping truck and left. And I was in the hospital for 2 months and rehab for 5 months. And that was a very trying time for me as a young man where a lot of my future was questioned, laying around in your hospital bed. I really wasn't into college. And then for sure, you give someone that's already wanting to leave college, almost a year off college. We'll see you later, right? And so that was the beginning of what I consider in my hero's journey, the underground, the dark time. And along with being in the hospital for 2 months and rehab for 5 months comes a lot of other things that you question your manhood, how you're going to show up in this world. There are times when, I got one ankle, I have 10 screws and a plate in my left foot, a bunch of skin and stuff like that. Yeah. During that period of time, too, you're taking, what are they called? Norcos or Vicodin, right? I mean, it's just your life or my life that time. And then also too, along with the non-moving came a substantial amount of weight gain. And so I found myself in my early and mid 20s in a very difficult period. I didn't know what I was doing with my career. My parents actually divorced in my early 20s. My mother stayed married to my father. What a trooper, Maria Sisco. Shout out to you. And they wound up getting divorced. And at my immature age, I couldn't understand it because it was something I took such great pride in my identity, that my parents and my family stayed together despite all these things. And now looking back, a decade without my wife, I would have probably gotten divorced too, especially if I spent a decade or longer in prison, right? You just lose all sort of social awareness, and even empathy, right? Being in prison, And so I couldn't understand that at that time. And I moved home during my early 20s to be of support of my mother. And I was not very good at emoting my feelings and thoughts. And so I turned to other things like gambling and food to remove or numb myself from actually feeling those feelings. You go play some poker, you eat some double cheeseburgers, and there you go. You forget about feeling sorry for yourself. And where I grew up, God forbid if you cried, because that made you the P word real quick. So it was just a combination of all the very similar things that men really go through. And in 2008, I watched the movie 300. I imagine many men around that time were really privy to it, and maybe many still are. And I watched that movie in awe of how many actors were actually in amazing shape. Most action movies, from my experience, there's one or two people that were very godlike, and the rest were regular decklers. And I said, wait a second, I want to do some research on this movie. Come to find out, they trained at a gym called Jim Jones. I start doing some more research there. I'm quite the truth seeker. So when I say research, I'm not just one article in. I'm breathing you in. I sommelier life. I simmer in it. And then I come to find this thing called CrossFit, and they were once a part of CrossFit. And then January 5th, 2009, yes, I'm a resolution, never gone back, baby. I went and started doing CrossFit at 300 pounds on my own. There really wasn't an affiliate scene back then. And that whole period comes a little bit later. And so I lost 95 pounds in 7 months. And it was the first time I consciously made a choice to do something only solely to make me proud, not for anything in my external universe. And I took what was my trusted tool of tenacity that I developed at a young age from my father, and was able, and Danny is the other gentleman, taught me to make a masterpiece of what I do. And Sammy gave me some cool swagger along the way. And those combination of those three men and me choosing to do something for myself allowed me and propelled me to lose 95 pounds and really anchor in a deeper hero story of me and trusting of me and my soul and how I could operate and really own my own power. Fast forward that, started training people for free, bro. Just loved it. Had another business at the time. 14 months old later, or rented a racquetball court space for 14 months. November 11th, 2010, I opened up O'Hare CrossFit, which was an incredible journey and still was. And what I like to tell people in this CrossFit game is I smoked it to the filter. I opened up multiple affiliates, coached people to the games, traveled as far as Africa to teach CrossFit, consulted over 500 gyms worldwide. I did everything that I could imagine as an accolade in the CrossFit space. Then around 2015, I started a journey of entering into self-discovery work, right? Because I started realizing that in order for me to continue to thrive as a leader, I was the governor, no matter what it was, leading my employees, leading myself, leading my communities, my cultures. Everything that I was trying to do was a literal just projection of me. And once I learned that, it was absolutely liberating for me because I knew that because of my previous experience, I trusted myself. So if it was about me going to do some stuff, I was down. I thought it was other people's fault, right? I thought it was that I still live in that victim world where it was this way instead of me pointing towards me. Once I knew I was the problem, I went, really? I just have to fix me and then all this stuff gets better? Oh, where do I sign? And I went balls deep into what is now referred to as Alpha Hippie, which is the name of my self-actualization journey. And it really came up one day after I came home from SoCal in Chicago. And like I said, I grew up in an Italian-American Catholic neighborhood, walking around in Encinitas bare feet, drinking some mushroom tea with a guy that I call my wizard, and I'm journaling for 2 days and crying, is not really what we did. We sat on street corners, smoked Parliament lights, beat kids up, and thought about who we could, steal $20 from that day. That was my existence as a kid, and so, and even in that type of culture. And I said, well, you don't understand this because you're not an alpha hippie. I don't even know why I'm explaining this to you. And I said, wow, what an amazing name, alpha hippie, because there's so much that I really love about being an alpha, an owning of your darkness. And what I really consider alpha is like the street, is the nature part of life that I do not wish to denounce. I do not hate. I'm in gratitude of. And what I really trust in is usage of that in proper ways, much like a hammer. I want to build a house with it. I don't want to knock the house down. Same thing, right? Nothing's good or bad yet. For me, when it comes to being in nature, the street has taught me how to be a predator instead of prey. That's how I wish to show up. So I make 100 shirts that say Alpha Hippie, no Alpha Hippie shirts. So I make 100 of them, pass them out to everyone that I know that's down with this life, continue my journey. Then I said, oh man, what am I gonna do now? The gym was rocking and rolling, all that stuff was on autopilot by then. I spent 7, 8 years building it. It should be on autopilot right now, or let's be honest, I suck. Anyways, so I was able to really spend a lot of time in this. And then so I started the podcast, and it was a passion project for me. I paid out of pocket to do it. It wasn't about money. And then I thought deeper about what is Alpha Hippie about, or what was I seeking in Alpha Hippie? And it really is, a solution to what I find to be my biggest frustration in the world is when men play small, is when men are not accepting of their true divinity and power and duty. And what I find is responsibility to actually remove themselves from being just a worm in society and take that leap and be towards more of the divinity in society, and what that really means, and that removal of people pleasing, and that removal of thinking that life is pretty good, can't complain. And so I started doing a 10-week course called Masculine Mastery just with some fellows at my gym, and it was absolutely amazing. Fast forward to September 2019, I had this amazing revelation that it was time for me to no longer carry the CrossFit identity, and Alpha Hippie was my sole identity. No longer was I using CrossFit as a diversion to bring up this stuff. I am taking off that mask, and I'm going to step into this one. 2 days later, my son was born. And I really started to think about my father and really what his lessons were. And it is that tenacity, stepping out and being bold. And so after I had that vision and I had that son, my son was born, I really knew what I was here to teach him. And I was not going to, I say that, a father represents a lot, represents the world, represents nature to a family, especially a boy, yet also to, I'm not the only one. I still want to make my daddy proud. That's an intrinsic part of us. We resent our dads, but God damn it, that's the only person we want to hear that is proud of us, because that's our measure of a man. And so I really wanted to show my son that I could wear the cape, and I deserve to be his hero. So she cried, bro. Because I do the work, and I'm not going to let him down. And I will. And my goal, no matter how lofty this sounds, is I want to be his daddy forever. not his father. I want to be his daddy, right? Just to him. Like he doesn't have to say it to other people. And so I spoke with my wife about our lives, and we committed to moving to Southern California October in 2019. And the chips fell where they made, where they were throughout 2020, and everything worked out for us, not to us. We sold our gym to our very, very best coach who was ready to step into a wonderful leadership role. And I'm a firm believer that chaos is the best time to sell your business, not at its peak, because it allows for a new leader to emerge, right? A new hero to step into the role versus where if I left the thing and it was there, it was at its peak where everyone wants to sell things and business wise. To me, you're actually doing the gym a disservice because you are looking out for you and not the betterment of what will come of a new leader being able to stake their claim, one for themselves and for the community and culture. And so it all worked out in our favor. The day after Memorial Day, my family and I packed up. We did a 13-day Cisco expedition, as I call it, across the country and stayed by our beautiful friends all over the country, Nebraska, you name it, Colorado, Salt Lake City, all over NorCal. We ended up in Southern California in San Clemente, which is the city that we chose. It's the most southern city in Orange County. I'm closer to San Diego than I am California if you're thinking about a map. And I've gone 110,000% in really stewarding this movement of helping men play small. My business partners are also located in Southern California, which is really great for us to have that team synergy and be together. And shit, I'd be lying to tell you that it's February 16th, the day we recorded this. It's 60 degrees. You know what I'm saying, bro? And last night it was 9 degrees in Chicago and a foot of snow. I'm not gonna lie that the days of waking up, brushing your teeth, taking a piss, and then hitting the car start alarm, praying to whoever you like in the sky that you left the heater on all the way, the seats, and that hopefully the defrost will be just enough that you can use the windshield wipers. You don't have to brush the whole car. You know what I'm talking about. You live in the Northeast.
I do.
Anyone that lives in the cold environment. And that's how I'm showing up now. Please forgive me for not being 2 minutes yet. That's the story.
Oh man, it's a beautiful story, and I appreciate you sharing it. And the tenacity it's a big part of life. And I like what you said, that no matter what happens, there's always some lesson we can glean from every situation and from every person that we engage with. And like you said, if we can get ourselves out of that victim mentality, which so many of us are conditioned to fall into, and many of us accept as a role, once we can get out of that, our entire life changes. Like you said, with your accident, it was like, you could choose to just be a victim, someone who could never do athletics again, someone who is doomed to be overweight and injured for the rest of their life. You could have easily played into that role, and I'm sure the doctors were telling you that was going to be your life, but you made the decision to say, no, that's not going to be my life. I'm going to make my own life. And I think something that you really said that stood out to me there as well is the fact with, we all want to impress our fathers, no matter how much resentment we have for our fathers, no matter how much whatever we have for our fathers, how many times we've butted heads with our fathers. At the end of the day, you're damn right. And it's something that, the way you said that, I was like, shit. It really hit me, because you're damn right. We all want to impress our fathers. We all want to be told by them that they're proud of us, that they're happy with the work that we've done. And I think that is something that so many of us, in this era of what a lot of people call toxic masculinity, that term that just gets thrown around, which, in my opinion, it's a lack of masculinity. It's the fact we don't have enough positive masculine energy out there. Most people, I think it's like 51% of households grow up with single mothers.
Yes.
And that's not fair to the boys, not fair to anybody, not fair to the women as well. But then you also look at our leaders, I'm going to put that in quotation marks, who are supposed to embody a leader. a masculine leader. They're about as far from what I want to be as just about anybody. So I think it really comes down to unlearning what we've been conditioned to believe of what a man is, or what's if you're a weak man, men don't cry, all these lies that we've been told, that even just you right there, talking about your son, you're saying you're starting to tear up a little bit, and that's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength. Not only the fact that you can allow yourself to feel that, but the fact that you can acknowledge that and utilize that as a springboard for strength, not an anchor for weakness. So, I just appreciate the movement that you're creating, because I think it's one this planet so desperately needs.
My brother, thank you so much. Are you familiar with the show Billions at all?
I'm not, no.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter if you're really familiar with the show. This is something that I tell people about crying when they first maybe want to discuss it. So there's a show called Billions. It's on Showtime, and there's one guy in it. I watched like the first season or two. I haven't caught it in a while, but there's a guy in there. His name is Dan Sodders. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. And so I like this guy, and I found out he was a stand-up comedian, and he refers to crying as face coming. And
That's
I
funny.
peed my pants, right? But to me, that's exactly what it is. When you let it go, it's your face having an orgasm.
Right.
And so every time I do it and I start laughing, I go, man, I just tell my wife, I go, God, I just face came so good. And then you just make light of it, and it's just what you're doing. And for me, toxic masculinity is a shaming mechanism to not help a situation. No different than if I was suppressing a woman or taking advantage of her. I'm keeping her down. The term toxic masculinity actually keeps men down. And it does through shaming. And most men are toxic for one, like you said, not having proper leadership to really help them understand all of the masculine and feminine energy, how to properly embody it for themselves so that they could actually be in better embodiments for the people around them through their modeling. Yet, you show me a toxic male, what I will see is a boy psychology.
Yes.
That to me, you're talking about stunted growth. And if you call someone who is, if I called someone that wasn't great at learning a retard, would they be more propelled and wanting to grow and learn? No, you would make them resist it. You would literally not do that. And I'm not saying that their actions, like the Harvey Weinsteins or anyone that people might be imagining as toxic, is approved. I'm not saying that. Yet I'm saying is that if we're just gonna damn everyone that's not doing something that's up to a divine masculine standard as toxic, good luck getting that person to change. Now, isn't that what we all really want? Is that person to feel empowered, aware, and get the education so that they could be better? Isn't that what we really want? Or do we just think, or does culture think that by just shaming them and putting them in the corner, that that's a real solution? And so for me, toxic doesn't exist. Boy still is existing, and that's what you're seeing in real time.
100%. Yeah, I mean, most of us have grown up in such an unfamiliar path of what it takes to be a man and how we get there. And like you said, the words that we choose are going to dictate, the life that we live. Like you said, and I think a perfect example I always think of is that I used to love art. I used to love drawing and just being creative as a kid. I'd have stacks of papers of my drawings, and I remember it was somewhere in middle school, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, somewhere in that range. My art teacher gave me a C on a project. And so my association at that immature age was, oh, I'm not good at art. I thought I was good at art, but now I'm not good at art. And I've never been into art since, because it basically, I accepted the story that I'm not good at art. Some authority figure told me I'm not good at art. Therefore, they know better than I do. Therefore, I should stop doing art because I'm not good at it. And
Right.
now, what really showed me how much I love art was about 2.5 years ago when I started my business and I was building my website and creating my logo. And I was like, holy shit, I forgot how much I love art, how much I love creation. But it's something that was so suppressed in me because someone told me, or, someone gave the assertion that I wasn't good enough. And I accepted that story. So now one of my big challenges right now is figuring out how can I incorporate more art into my life. And I got a whiteboard in my room, and now sometimes it's like, even just writing my list for the week of things I want to accomplish using different colors. And sometimes it's just little things like that that can use a little bit more art in there. But it took me years to kind of recognize that. I mean, I'm 27 years old now. I was 25 when I started my company. So that was a good 10 plus years, more than that, over a decade of not knowing why I didn't like art anymore. And then it took once that was a holy shit moment. So my point being on this little rant here is that we can be so easily influenced by the words of others, but also the words of ourselves. And I think that's something that I hear you using your words very carefully. I hear you correcting yourself when you say something that you didn't really mean. It's the idea of, oh, I had to do this. No, I chose to do this, or I get to do this. So I'd love
Yes.
to just kind of dive into, because I know you're very intentional with your words. How do these words that we use, how do these create the spells that encapsulate our life?
Wow, what a great topic. And I agree with you, bro. So, just a really quick about your story. When you think about art, what is the energy of artists is a feminine energy.
Right.
And look at what happened. Your feminine energy was stunted. Big boys don't cry. Your art is not good enough. I could recall different times in my life when just certain books I like to read weren't the approved list. So then I didn't want to read through school because it's just all of these for many men, we don't realize what they're going through, that they're not actually very supported in young ages to keep a touch of feminine energy because it's usually judged. And feminine energy is a not best grace approach, non-judge. Because when my wife is in a sensitive moment, the last thing she wants to hear from me is a masculine energy critique or judgment.
Right. I've learned that the hard way day in and day out. You're 100% right.
Right. And then when this happens as a young boy, you obviously don't, you, any of us don't have the awareness, the ability to navigate this properly. So we just hang it up as bad and we don't touch it. And then it becomes even farther removed from us 20 years later. Some of us are fortunate enough to find it, and a lot of us aren't. And so, well, how can we have a well divine, harmonized masculine when that's not really there? And so, back to the words in communication. Around 2016, during my development journey, I met a gentleman named Mark England. And Mark England is my word Buddha and really helped me get deeper into the idea of words and communication. And I've always had quite a bit of liking or, just taking of integrity. And what that really means to me is I do what I say I'm going to do. And if someone said, "Oh, I miss you," but then there's no action behind it, I go, "Please don't tell me that. You don't really miss me. I'm not mad at you at all, but don't bullshit me." I've always been a bit direct, and being better with the choice of my words allows me to create an identity that I am happy to own versus using one built on cultural habits and just non consciousness of choice. And then also too, when I take a look at any time in my life that I have not shown up in a certain way where anger, temper, or I've resorted to some sort of violent verbal or physical solution, it is very much directed to my inability to communicate or connect properly with that other person. And then I resorted to these violent verbal or physical ways of expressing myself out of frustration that I carried, and I didn't really understand that. And so I went really deep into words, communication, how our thoughts are even made, what thoughts are, what they come from, feelings, images, and then our words are a translation of our thoughts and all this stuff. And so I really dug deep into this. And what's really important for me too is when I speak is, and you said this, our reality is a construct of our spells. And what spells are is stories that have been repeated in your brain and or spoken, and then stories repeated comes from words repeated, and words repeated come from thoughts repeated. And so I really dug deep into my language and even understanding of my thoughts first in reflection, right? Because your thoughts could be journals. And also too, that's why I have found and fallen in love with the breath and meditation practice. Because if you ever for anyone that's looking into meditation, it's just find a place that you know that you could get lost in your thoughts without any distractions, and you are meditating. That could be a walk, that could be doing jujitsu, that could be doing anything, that could be sitting in a corner, whatever that is for you. And also for me, what I love most about breath work is, and especially the holotropic Wim Hof sort of breath work that involves putting a little bit of stress on you and that through a hold series is when you are in a stressful, you're seeing how much CO2 tolerance you could put up with. You are literally hearing what you are saying to yourself in those stressful times. And now either that voice is your friend or your foe. And so that really helped me start becoming even more fascinated with language and understanding the power of it. And then I fancy myself someone that really likes to connect with people. And that also helped me wanting to connect better. And also, too, as I developed the skill, very few times do I get to enjoy beautiful conversations like I'm having with you, these 2 hour, whatever have you long, full focus conversations. And so when my vocabulary was able to get upgraded, I was better at hearing what people were really saying and better at what I was trying to communicate because so much of our world now is in these short bubbles of communication. And so that's what really helped me dive deep into this construct and learn more and more about the life that I'm trying to manifest and create, and also understanding where people are and the life that they're manifesting and creating for themselves.
Beautifully said. And I think that it's really a key piece you said there is that many of us don't have the opportunity nowadays to really dive deep into a conversation. And that conversation can be with ourselves or with another person. There's so many distractions right now. You could be in the middle of meditation, then you forget to put your phone on airplane mode or on do not disturb, and now you get a notification. Now your brain is immediately drawn back to that, just your natural curiosity. And then you go check your phone. Now you're out of it. Now you get sucked into the rabbit hole. Now you forget you're having a conversation. Same thing. Phone goes off. Something else goes off. It's so easy to just get disconnected. It's so easy to think, oh, that video is 5 minutes, that's too long. It's like sometimes I even find myself doing that. Someone sends me a video, oh, check this out. And it's 5 minutes. Like, if it was a minute, I might watch. And I catch myself. It's like, it's 5 minutes. I can spare 5 minutes to watch something that someone took the time to say, hey, I think this is important. And you might think so too. So check this out. But it's so easy to get caught in this quick fix, instant gratification, quick dopamine hits. And I think that's something that I've really enjoyed about the podcast and hosting the podcast and being a guest on other people's podcasts is just like you said, being able to have these deep, present conversations. And my phone, I haven't checked my phone this whole conversation. It's on Do Not Disturb. I'm not worried about it. It's not important. I block out this time in my calendar and we just dive deep. Whatever happens, happens. I'll check it after. Yeah, maybe there'll be something that, would have been good if I checked it. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's not the end of the world. We're going to survive if we don't check our phone for a few hours. So with that being said, there's just so many of these little distractions that can keep us off track from being present. And I think as a bigger picture, keep us off track of our purpose. There's so many shiny objects. And I think that's something that I found myself getting caught into when I first started my business and over the course of my life in general is, you see something, all right, cool, I'm going to do that. Oh, but now there's something new. Maybe I'll try that instead. And instead of sticking to one course, so many of us are going off into little side quests, doing little loop-de-loops, and then all of a sudden we're off from where we originally began. So in your journey, obviously you've been very focused, between the CrossFit business, committing to that for 8 or so years, now committing to Alpha Hippie. What have you found for tools? Because I think that's also a big challenge a lot of men have is they don't have a purpose. They don't have a clear purpose. They don't have a path, an objective that they're walking towards. What can men do to get back on their path and be clear about their purpose and take steps in that direction and be able to avoid the many distractions that we're faced with?
Ooh, wow, what a great subject. Okay. One is, for me, the ultimate way to learn about your purpose is to follow your heart. As your heart inspires, your brain conspires, and your balls make the fire. Right? And so, whatever you are passionate about, whatever you lust for, whatever makes you angry and you want to be a solution to, is more than likely where your purpose will line and intersect. Number two is we live now in an information heavy, context light world. What I mean by that is 25 years ago, I was not reading encyclopedias for fun. And for many of us, we go and look at things and search for things that we do not really have context to. And for me, what I do my best to do is find out what I need to seek and then go get the information, not just go get the information in case I need it later. For me, that is a waste of time and also a scarcity mindset.
Can you say that one more time? 'Cause I think it's a really important point that I want you to emphasize that one more time.
Yes. 25 years ago, we were reversed. We lived in a context heavy, information light world. And what it was is you had to call 411. You went to the phone book, you went to the encyclopedia. It was a very different way of getting information. Nowadays, with the accessibility through the internet, which is very wonderful, there is so much information out there, yet many of us, especially young men, don't have enough context. Well, what are you exactly going to the thing for? What podcasts would you want to listen to should be based upon what problem or solution that you are searching for, right? Guidance. Like, what do you need this for? Not looking at it as there's just information, so I'm taking it in just in case I do need it. That's really the context of how I look at it, and it helps me stay much more present on my journey, because then when I'm butting up against something that's repeating, that's a sign that I need information slash education help to grow. And then I go and search.
I think that is absolutely just fascinating and very well put and very well thought out. And I think that is something that I would like to express more myself, because I think intuitively that's kind of the route that I've found myself going, but I've never really, put that into a verbal context. And that's why I asked you to repeat it, because I think it is so profound just in the way that you articulated that. And I think that, as you just said, is there's times where there's lots of new podcasts coming out. There's information overload. If I wanted to listen to every single podcast of all my favorite podcasters, I would just be listening to podcasts for my entire life, and I still wouldn't be able to listen to all of them. So
Yes.
I think it's really important, like you said, is that every a couple times a week I'll go and kind of skim and kind of see, all right, what's the title of this episode? What's the theme of this episode? Is that something I need right now? Or like you said, is this just more information that I should just spend more time actually disassociating from the information? Would I be better off just sitting in silence for a little bit, or would I be better off adding more information? It's a fine line. It's like that, that seesaw. It's like, do I need more information or less information? And then we want to find that balance. Because if we're in a place, like you said, we have a challenge and we need more information, yeah, maybe listen to a podcast. But if you're in a place that your head is spinning, you have so much information, you can't even sit still. You're so addicted to your phone, you're watching the TV, and you're so distracted. You have just too much going on. Don't add more to that. Don't add more chaos to that. Take a step back. And
Yes.
sometimes it's easy for me to shame myself if I take, let's say I wake up at 7, then it's 11 o'clock, and all I've done is go for a walk. And but I mean, all I've done, it's important work, but in my own mind, I tell myself all I've done is go for a walk. All I've done is worked out. All I've done is make a meal. I haven't done any work. I haven't listened to any information. But then I catch myself, not always as fast as I'd like to, but I catch myself and I say, hey, that's equally important to doing the work. Because
Yes.
I think a really important piece that I've been looking to share the message of lately is that the magic doesn't happen in the work. It happens in the space between the work. So many of the greatest ideas didn't happen when someone was at their desk trying to force it out. Happened when they're going for a walk. Happened while they're in the shower. Someone, I think it was Steve Jobs, invented Apple when he was on LSD. When we're in the space in between the work, that's where the magic happens. And I think it's so easy as a driven, masculine, entrepreneurial man to shame ourselves into saying, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being enough, because we live in this go, 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 burnout, go, 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 keep going until you really burn out world. So I'd love to just have you share, first any reflections on that, but also what do you do to keep yourself grounded and also keep yourself in a state of reminding yourself that this is equally, if not more important than the work itself?
Wow. What a great question. Because I go through this, my doer brain is also a scarcity brain.
Yes, 100%.
And I I I dance with him quite often, especially when it comes to not living such a regimented life. I wake up between 6 and 7. For most of my years, it was like 4 a.m. If I didn't get out of bed right away, I was missing out, right? I was doing all those things. And what I really try to do is allow myself days where I am a doer and then allow myself days when I'm a non-doer. And what I do my very best to do is it's okay. So let's just say I'm in a state of non-doing and I go get a cup of coffee and I wind up talking to the barista. I imagine that the divine is a messenger of the barista and I should pay just as close attention to what they're saying.
Mm,
And that life is sending me the signals to the things, to my biggest problems. And it's not just me having to go seek them, they're actually going to come to me in ways that I did not anticipate. And often It's one conversation with this guy, a next one with this guy, a next one with this guy. And then all of a sudden, there's three puzzle pieces that I was really missing.
And that just comes down to being present. First of all, you have to be very present to be open to listening to a stranger who our normal conditioning is, oh, their job is to just get me my coffee, and then that's it. That's all. That's the purpose of the interaction. Is I talk to them, I tell them what I want, they give me what I want, and then I go on my way. But if we can allow ourselves the presence and the intention to say, hey, this isn't just the barista, this is another human being. And the way I look at it is we are all God. We are all a creation of God. We are all, I have God in me, you have God in you, this plant has God in it. And if we can recognize that we are, like you said, all divine creations, maybe that divine creation has something that's worth tapping into. And maybe all you needed from that interaction was to make that person smile, or they made you smile, or maybe just by speaking aloud, saying, hey, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm doing really well. Oh, cool. How was your weekend? Just having a little interaction. Maybe that's all you need out of that. But to think that this person's just here to just do this and that's not an important interaction, why not? Why not make that a valuable interaction? Why not try to make your barista or your cashier smile or ask them how their life is actually going? Why not? Why not utilize every single piece of divine work that has been created here to see how we can help each other and grow each other? And in this age of disconnection and isolation, for me, it's very stressful going to a grocery store right now, just in the energy that's in there. There's a lot of fear. And so my intention as I'm in my car, getting myself into a parasympathetic state, because I know if I don't, I'm going to catch onto that sympathetic state energy. I sit in my car, I take a few breaths, and I remind myself my intention is to go into the store and to spread love and light and to make one person smile. That's it. Keep it simple. But sometimes I'll make multiple people smile. Because once you get one going, then the momentum kicks in and then you get a little bit more confident. Just like if you're at, a club or a bar or something back in the day when that existed. You know, when you first get there, you're a little on edge and you talk to one person, now you warm up, talk to another person, now you're warming up. But at the end of the night, you're on the freaking dance floor crushing it because you're so warmed up because you've had so many interactions. And so that's something that I think that we can all utilize more is just going into every interaction with a little bit more intention and recognizing that there is divine creation in every single one of us.
I agree 1000% too. For me, uh, treating any living entity, whether it be Earth or a human or an animal, as transactional. Like a human just makes me my coffee. I don't look at them in the eye. They don't look me in the eye, and we leave. Uh, is really not giving the divine a chance to show up.
Right.
You are rejecting the gift that may be there. Are they always there? No, but nevertheless, the act of being able and being open to receiving, you have literally crushed.
100%. And it comes back to we need to leave that space and allow the space to be. Because again, we can come back to the distractions. You could, instead of talking to your barista, talking to whoever, you could be checking your phone. I leave my phone in the car. If I go into a store, my phone's like, first of all, I try to keep my phone away from my body as much as possible. But in general, if I go into a store, it's in the car so I can be present in that moment. It avoids the impulsive reaction that in a seemingly awkward moment where there's nothing going on to go to my phone as a reaction. So I leave it in the car. And sometimes I even find myself from time to time like reaching for it, like, oh, this is that, subconscious feeling awkward, check my phone, avoid, and then it's not there. And then I'm faced with it. And then I can breathe. And then I can have a lot more space for magic.
Agreed. I love it, dude. It's to me the ultimate sign now of like when someone's like, dude, I don't have my phone on me, I'm like, yes, good for you.
Right.
Good for you. You shouldn't. That to me is the uh, ultimate sign of detachment nowadays
Right.
is, yeah, I don't have my phone.
And I think that's something that I've shared many times, is that I feel very fortunate for the time that I grew up in. Again, being 27 years old now, I didn't have my first cell phone till I was in high school. I didn't have a smartphone till I was a senior in high school. So I kind of grew up with having it towards the end of my teenage years, but not in the early age. So, growing up when I was 12 years old, we had dial up. So if I wanted to use the computer, my parents couldn't use the home phone because that would tie up the internet. And I think that it really allowed me to grow up in an era that I kind of saw both within my adolescent years, which is, not most people, if you're not a millennial, didn't have the opportunity to experience that. And so I'm very grateful to have that perspective and also have younger siblings and younger cousins and work with other kids to see kids that have grown up with that from 5 years old, 4 years old. And then one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see in like a grocery store and there's like a 2-year-old with an iPad just hitting all these buttons, and then it starts crying, or it's crying, then the mom gives them the iPad and it's like a distraction. And that's just not a good way to breed. It's like, oh, you're not happy here, let me just stimulate you with this iPad. So, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole we could dive into. But one of my questions I wanted to get into, kind of shifting gears, is as someone who has obviously faced a lot of adversity, has faced a lot of challenges, overcome a lot of challenges, grew up in an area that sounds like it had its own challenges inherent with that area. What have you learned from the idea of challenges and overcoming these challenges? And how can we shift our mindset from seeing these problems as really opportunities? Because you said earlier, one of my favorite things is there's no such thing as a good or bad tool. It's just a tool. It's all how you use it.
Yes. On the other side of discomfort, a conflict, whatever you want to call it, is resolution, truth. And that is always binary language used. It's always better to just lean into that, because then your assumptions, your fake fears, and the things that are really holding you back, at least you have evidence of. At least now you know. You know where you stand, you know where you need to work. And for me, that's clarity. And clarity gives you a chance. Everything else, if you think and there's no evidence, you're making it up. And that's the ultimate way that you will live a life that is unfulfilled and victim. You will have no chance to actually step into your deepest power if it's someone else's fault, and or you are not willing to go seek the discomfort to find out the truth, or at least what a better, more evidence-based perceived truth is, not based on false stories or assumptions that we all can make.
And one thing I love, the acronym of fear, false evidence appearing real. And that's, most of us suffer more in our own heads by this false evidence appearing real than we ever will in reality. And kind of similar to the idea of seeking out knowledge when you need it, kind of the same thing. Don't create a situation because of a what if, because, oh, this could happen, so let me freak out and do all these things in case this happens. What about, yeah, I'll be prepared for it if it comes. I'll figure it out. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And yeah, I'm not saying don't be prepared. Like, you want to have some food in the house so you don't have to worry about getting food every single day, because we have that luxury now. You don't have to go out and hunt for our food every single day. Be prepared, but don't go overboard. Don't fall into this fear-based mentality, this scarcity-based mentality, because it's not helping anyone. And it's definitely not helping the person thinking those thoughts, because then we're making up all these worst case scenarios of what could happen, the what ifs. And the what ifs are the destruction of happiness, the destruction of presence, and I can say they're most certainly the destruction of love.
Oof. Destruction of love, baby. I love that one. I agree. The what if often shows times of distrust in yourself, that you are ill prepared for what you are capable of doing or not appreciating what you're really capable of. And also, too, for me, uh, resources, my greatest resource is my friends, right? Is people. I love to tell my wife that I'm the people's champ, right? For me, my friendships are my estate. My relationships are my estate. And for many of us, when we get into the what if scheme, it is usually about I and very rarely we.
Mm.
And for me, that is the first challenge is why do we imagine that we are on this island when very rarely the problems that we have, the stresses that we have, the things that we are concerned with, we have all felt and or all concerned with at the current moment. And if you know that you have people, you know, sharing in problems is much better than thinking you're the only one that has them. It's already enough relief to know that you're not alone. And for me, that really gives me the confidence to remove what ifs because I spend an incredible amount of time in my relationships and cultivating them and connecting deeper in them and creating ones that with people that I am feeling aligned with.
And I think, on that topic is we often think that we have a unique problem. We're the only person in the world that has this problem. That's just not true. If you've had that problem, someone else has had, maybe not the exact 100% match, but probably about a 99.9% match of that same problem. And like you said, sometimes just recognizing that we're not alone. It's not just our problem, it's a human problem. It's
Yes.
not a Rob Carney problem, it's a human problem. So if I can share this challenge with the people, they may have a human solution to my human problem because this isn't a unique experience or a unique problem per se. Someone else has probably overcome something similar. And that may be an instance where, hey, this person has had a similar challenge and they have a result I want. Maybe I should go seek that out. And that's one of the great luxuries of technology. People can bash technology. They can say it's the greatest thing. They can say it's the worst thing in the world. It's a tool. It's how we use it. And if we can recognize, hey, I can find someone else who grew up in the Boston area. They have this problem. They have results I want. Maybe I should study some of the stuff they did. Maybe that would give me some solutions to the seemingly unique problems that I'm dealing with. And if we can utilize technology, we can have access to any mentor in the world that is absolutely perfect for us, whether we get to speak with them one-on-one or not. To some degree, that doesn't even matter. If we can learn from them through podcasts, through videos, through books, that's one of the most incredible pieces of technology that I've found.
That is absolutely the true gift of the internet. You just summed it up. Like, why is the internet such a great tool? You just said it. And it's also why it could be used as a misused, darker tool. But what you just said is the light of the internet. No longer are you the one person maybe in your 3 to 5 mile radius neighborhood, but now we have access far beyond that to have solutions and or possible solutions and or connections to that. No longer is geography your limiter. And that's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And even just thinking about this conversation we're having here today is because of technology. And that's really,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that is just amazes me every single time I do a podcast is so many of my guests I've never met in person. How crazy is that we can have multiple conversations? This is, this isn't our first conversation. We've had a couple conversations now, and we can do that. I can see you and hear you. I mean, you're on a screen that's about, 18 inches away from me. That
Right.
is absolutely amazing. And we have that luxury to be able to connect with people anywhere in the world to find answers to any single problem we may have. Now, that doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean it's easy to overcome that problems, but we have a much simpler solution. Even the fact of, you mentioned about reading encyclopedias. We don't have to go to libraries, drive to a library, which isn't even that big a deal, to be honest. It's still a pretty simple solution. We don't have to drive to a library, check into the library, search through all the books, probably read 16 books before we find something relatively. Now we can go to a search engine, search our exact answer, and probably within the first 10 links on there, you'll probably find something very useful. And
Yes.
and that's what I think is just really amazing about having an online business is that it allows me and allows you and other people who are in this field to help serve people all over the world all the time. And that's just truly spectacular. So, on that note, I'd love to just have you dive into Alpha Hippie and what work you're doing right now, what the mission is moving forward, and how you foresee it growing and evolving as time goes on.
Absolutely. So as Alpha Hippie stands right now, our main focus is helping men not play small. And our target audience of men is right around over 30, usually 30 to 45. You have been somewhat successful, or you've been in a world where the 20s have worn off. And what I mean by the 20s is for me and a lot of young men experiences in the 20s is you are still going through a rather selfish time. And that's okay, right? That is a part of growth. And when you get into your mid 30s, there are certain other areas of your life, whether that be in relationships or even misalignment with your career and purpose, now that you have these other responsibilities, and or for a lot of men, they choose or embark on a career or a path that is about self-serving or making other people or getting, praise from other people. And then they get in their 30s and then they realize that really doesn't matter what other people think. They have a wife or a partner. They're starting to think more about the future and children. And also, too, the 21st century man is no longer subscribing to the idea that they're going to work hard for 40 years and then they're going to get the lifestyle they want and then they're going to contribute to the world. The 21st century man versus the 20th century man is doing all three, or has the opportunity to do all three simultaneously. And so I love working with that man because it allows us to get them in a path where, one, we could really identify their strengths and power. Because by now, too, you should have been spending some time figuring out at least what what you're good at, even if it takes a little bit of clarity work on our end to really narrow it down. Uh, really getting down to the one or two limiters in your self work, that is what's really holding you back. By now, you probably, by most men would be, oh, I have an anger issue and, whatever, a skill. Okay. And so these times now, your 20s, there's so much that you could go through. But in your 30s, you sifted through a lot of it by then. There's a bit more clarity, yet there's still so much option now. And there's a chance where in your 30s and even early 40s, what I like to call you're at your trifecta. You have a very strong physical presence still, right? When I'm 37, I love to think that I'm still physically capable. I have enough years in the game where now I have wisdom. And I also have enough years in the game where I have enough resources, whether that be financial, friendships, or anything like that in that world. And so you're at that place now where there's access to the big three, right? And that allows me, and all of us to really reach our highest pinnacle, which is a king archetype, right? Because now you literally have all three. When you're a younger man, you most likely don't have the resources and the wisdom, so you're just doing things without true alignment, right? You might have the physical body, but then you're sacrificing in the other ones. And so I love this demographic because now it becomes all right, you want to win in all three areas: income, lifestyle, contribution. You have the big three available to you: the physicality, the wisdom, and the resources. Great. You have more relationships, especially ones that you are protective over, partnerships, and parenthood. Great. Now we have some things to also throw in the equation, and you have yourself. Let's not get that twisted. What are you looking to really do now in this world? What's inspiring you now that wasn't in your 20s? Where's the fascination? And I love taking that chaos with men, deconstructing it, getting clarity on the outcome. And then what I coin and Alpha Hippie coins is identity alchemism, to help men become the person that could create and do all of those things. Not just think they could do them, know and believe, because you only ever do in this life what you believe. And so that is really where our work comes in, and how that really is constructed is through our courses. I have a physical mastery program, which is a take on a training program, but we like to refer to it as is a movement practice, not a workout routine, because it's a construction of what I like to call the lifestyle training continuum, which is something that we came up with and designed, that helps men show up better energetically, helps them show up in this point in their life and the future better, because no longer is it so much about my Fran time or how much weight I could lift. It's about, can I embody a divine masculine male? Am I able to move and be pliable, right? Versus, you want to, for me, and even now when you see it, a Tom Brady body that is more pliable in your 40s is what you want, instead of a Hercules body in your 20s, because you don't really over obsess about that, because the game in your 30s and above, and this is something that Optimized Alchemist and I, Ryan, laugh about, is it's called last man standing. It's about endurance at this point. When you're in your 20s, you're a young blood. You don't appreciate that. You're a hare. But in your 30s, it's about, in your 40s and 50s, you love the tortoise. And so we have that physical program, and then we have a mental mastery program that really dives deeper into the psychology and designing of that outcome and becoming of that person. And so when people do them, sometimes people do them separately, depending on where they are in their life, and also, too, where they may be lacking the most. For a lot of men that haven't moved in a while, have injuries, and also lack their ability to create structure, discipline, and consistency, we may point the physical program to them first. And then when some people have that down, because then I know that you could carry a regiment well. You're going to show up and do what you say you're going to do. They move to the mental, or depending on what our enrollment specialist Marcus really prescribed, some people are able to do both at the same time or vice versa. And so that's how we educate. And then our podcast is our form of awareness. I do interviews like this. You're going to be on my show soon enough. And then I also do guiding shows where I talk about concepts, fatherhood, partnerships, moving negative energy through your body, different things of that, how to connect better. I do a lot on communication. I call them communication rehabs, things of that nature. And so that creates awareness. And then our education is of that. And so Alpha Hippie, as it currently stands, is the ultimate lifestyle brand for men. And then our mission is to help men stop playing small.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, it's funny because you got me real excited about hitting my 30s now. It's something that I kind of knew was going to be some good years, but now you got me even more excited and hyped up. And it's funny how, as a society, we talk about, the glory days back in high school and college. And for me, even when I was in college, I mean, yeah, this is cool, but it's like I'm stuck in a program. it's cool. Yeah, I have a lot of fun. I don't have many responsibilities, but sometimes responsibilities are good. I think that it's easy to say, responsibilities are a bad thing. You have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about this. I have the opportunity to care about this because it's something important and worth caring about. And so, just hearing you talk about the 30s, damn, I'm really glad that I'm getting up. I'm almost there. I'm a few years away now, but I'd love to just have you share, as you're about a decade older than I am, which is kind of that prime area you're talking about. So what would you say? Because much of my audience, I'd say, is in that 25 to 35 range. What
Yes.
would you say for people in their mid to late 20s, in their early 30s? Whether it's lifestyle tips, taking care of your body, like you said with Tom Brady. And I think that's one thing too. You see LeBron James, I think, is another great example. He's lost 40 pounds since he was a rookie. He went
Yes.
up some, went down some, but he realized, it's about the sustainable approach. It's not about looking like Hercules, like you said. So what are just some tips about life in general that you would recommend to men ages 25 to 35, or maybe just start with men in their mid to late 20s? I know it's a deep
No,
question here.
no, I want to, I'm taking a second to pause to ensure that what I'm about to say is clear and also really important. As a young man, do your very best before you make a decision to respond and not react. Do more contemplating rather than thinking. And contemplation for me is what's going to matter in 10 or 20 years. And so if you have a girl and you could spare an extra half hour to lay with her and cuddle with her instead of being a hard ass thinking that you're not going to be David Goggins if you sleep in. And I love David. I really respect his work and all that good stuff. Uh, and at the same time, though, being, remembering those things, that there's more than just what you're going to do, that people are going to measure you by, that the relationships and the love that you are really able to share, you may forego some of the short term stuff because in 20 years, it will matter much more that I spent Sunday mornings laying in bed with my family than me saying that I did Wim Hof every day.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that has been my governor. Is that. And a story that my father once told me too. This is a great fable that won't take long. There's two bulls sitting on top of a hill. There's a young bull and an old bull. The young bull looks down and sees a herd of cows gets really excited, super excited. He runs up to the old bull and he goes, hey, you see that down there? There's that herd of cows. How about we run down and F one of the cows? And the old bull takes his time and looks at the young bull and says, how about we walk and F them all? and really just ensuring that you're keeping your blade sharp and you're not just hacking because you can. Those two things, what'll matter in 20 years and keeping your blade sharp, to me, are the most important things. Because when I was in my late 20s and even early 30s, my blade wasn't sharp, not because I wasn't sharp. It's because I didn't take time to sharpen it, and I thought I had to use it constantly.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely hit home. So thank you for sharing that. And it's something that I know just with my conversation with a lot of people my age, a lot of my people on a similar mission, is that, like you said, it's so easy that on a Sunday morning, my girlfriend and I laying in bed and, she's like, oh, 5 more minutes. I'm like, no, I gotta go do stuff. And then I get up and it's like, sometimes, I didn't even have an intention of what I want to do. I just psychologically felt I wasn't doing enough because I wasn't doing something. So then I find something, and maybe that something was legitimately checking my phone, like we talked about earlier, something that doesn't even matter. But just that feeling of being busy, that feeling like that mental masturbation of like, oh, I'm doing something, so I'm accomplishing something. But a lot of
Right.
times we're not. So that was definitely a much needed reminder. So thank you.
No, my pleasure, bro. It's the best insight I could give you today in this existence that I've had thus far.
Well, it's much received. And, I'm really just looking forward to the evolution of Alpha Hippie. I'm looking forward to the evolution of mankind and, the human species. When I say mankind, I was specifically thinking of men, but the human species in general. And I'm excited to see the lead that you're taking with leading the divine masculine into battle. Essentially, we're going to battle against this idea of toxic masculinity, against this idea that men, shouldn't be angry, shouldn't be aggressive, which I think we talked about this on a previous conversation, that the emotion of anger is just like fire. It's not a bad thing. It's just how we use it. Fire can be used to cook your food. It can be used to burn down a village. And just like anger, I think one of the questions you asked me on our first call was, what's something that makes you angry that you're creating a solution for? And I never really thought about it that way, but that really made me think, with Whole Health Connections, I was getting pissed off that companies were making claims about their products being clean. Then I read the ingredients and it's just bullshit. Like there's all these dyes and colors and stuff in there. And I was like, this isn't clean, but they're so good in marketing. So part of my mission with Whole Health Connections was finding the best products on the market that I've researched. And as someone who studied sustainable food and farming, like what do their farms look like? Are they organic? Are they, non-GMO? Are they using high quality food, or high quality soil in there? Do the people that are making these products, they care about them? Are they cutting corners? All these things that I found everywhere. And so that was something that when you said that, I was like, yeah, that shit did piss me off. And that's kind of why I did this. I was getting tired of it. I was getting tired of people asking me questions. Why am I taking these products and I'm not feeling better? They weren't good products. So I wanted to help
Yes.
people find better ones. So there's so many different things that the masculine energy can really solve a lot of problems, but we need
Yes.
to focus that energy. I think that's what it really comes down to, is so many of us are so scatterbrained, again, coming back to the distractions of the phone and the shiny objects, that it's just, it's admirable for me to get to know you and watch you and how focused you are in your mission. And it's just truly inspiring. So first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing your wisdom and sharing your light and also just give you the opportunity to share how people can get in contact with you, how people can get involved with what you're doing. Because obviously you've got a lot of great wisdom to share, and I'd love for people to learn from you and work with you in any way, shape, or form they can.
Oh man, thank you so much for seeing me how I wish to be seen. And for anyone that wishes to follow Alpha Hippie, I am alphahippie.com, as well as I am Alpha Hippie on all the good channels, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and all that good stuff. And for we have a free Facebook group for men called The Way of the Courageous Man. And this is a place where I spend most of my social media time, per se. And this is where I'm in connecting and having conversations with men daily and really getting to know them better and learn from them and ask questions, and being of support to the greater masculine community. And anyone that really feels called to learn a bit more about our programs, IamAlphaHippie.com is you're available to get some education on what we do, as well as schedule calls with our enrollment specialist, my business partner, Marcus Gursey, and he really ensures that we're the right fit for you and us. And really what that goes into is I'm a firm believer that everyone needs a mentor to grow. It is the recipe of every amazing hero journey. And what it means though is the right mentor, right? The mentor mentee relationship is very important. We must see the divinity in you, and you must believe that we are the ones that could take you to the divinity that is inside of you, and you are ready to surrender and trust that. And so, anyone that wants to really learn more and see if we are a good fit, Marcus is our gatekeeper, which I like to call him, of that, and really making sure that, I don't want to sell our program to anyone. I want everyone that goes in our programs to feel called to be a part of our program so they could surrender and commit to the process, and therefore I could commit to them as a guide and teacher. And that to me is how we find the success that's already there, just waiting to get pulled out.
Amazing. Well, Angelo, thank you so much again for being here today, shining your light. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And obviously, there's been a lot of great gems in here. So if you want to check out Angelo's stuff, not if you want to, when you check out Angelo's stuff, which I know you'll want to, I'm going to put those links in the description box here as well. Love for you to tune into that, follow all his great work. As I said, it's been a great pleasure getting to know Angelo. And I think this is just the very beginning of a long-term relationship that I'm excited to continue to dive deeper in. So for anyone you think that could benefit from hearing this podcast, please share with them. Any man in your life, whether it's your boyfriend, whether it's your brother, your friend, whoever, give them the opportunity to hear someone who has a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of experience in the field of divine masculinity. So thank you, everybody listening, for your support. Thank you for all the love. Please like, share, send this to a friend. And Angelo, we'll be in touch very soon, my friend.
I do hope so. I know we will. I trust we will. Thank you guys so much.
Have the best day, everybody. Peace. What's up, my friends? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Whole Health of Rob Carney podcast with our guest, Angelo Sisco of Alpha Hippie. So you can connect with Angelo, see all the cool stuff he's doing on his website, www.iamalphahippie.com, or on Instagram at iamalphahippie. So as you've seen, Angelo just has a wealth of knowledge to share. He got me fired up. He, listen to it again here now on the final sweep here is just it's amazing to have the opportunity to connect with so many like-minded people. Angelo being one of them, and that just leads me to my gratitude for you as a listener, you as a supporter, and allowing me and supporting me and living the life that I'm dreaming of. This is the life of my dreams, and it's getting better every day. And the more people I can serve, the more support we get from each other, the more we all grow. So, as I said in the beginning, if you got any value from this podcast, I really appreciate you hitting a like, a subscribe, a share. give Angelo a follow. The more we can support each other, the more we go together. And another way to support the podcast is through our Superfood sponsors. So if you go to wholehealthconnects.com and go to the Superfood nutrition page, or you can just go to wholehealthconnects.com/superfood-nutrition, you can see a lot of my favorite products out there, from the Daily Core 4 with Purium, which I talk about on a lot of my podcast episodes here. You get mastizymes and magnesium, P3OM from Bioptimizers. You get some other great stuff on there. There's so many great superfoods, so many great opportunities to bolster our health, and you get a little discount. So you can check that out. Use the discount code on the website there and save yourself 10% with Bioptimizers, $50 or 25% off with Purium. You can go and get your red light therapy, save 10%. Check it out. Always looking to share the favorite things that I love with you. Get you a little discount along the way. So thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. And I'll see you on the next episode.